Our next storyteller is a veteran storyteller at the Monti. Actually, pre-pandemic storyteller. Like this is the, he was telling stories before 2021. He's very funny, he's very charming, he's won a story slam before. We love having him here on this stage. Let's give a big round of applause for our next storyteller, Colin.
I do not. Thanks for bringing up the pandemic in my intro. So when Don booked a call on my calendar, I was immediately intrigued. He was a speaker's agent and he had a gig 2 weeks from now that was really promising. It would open doors in an industry that I was really interested in working in. I'm a speaker, and I speak on money psychology and trust. So I get on the call with Don, and I gotta say my first impression was not great. He was kind of corny. He was very spray-tanned. And he was clearly reading from a script, like complete with corny jokes, and then he started talking about this gig, and it really sounded fantastic. And he told me, after my commission, you will get $4,000. It's a 3-hour training, about 100 people. It's a lot of work, but it sounds great. And he says, so if you want to do it, you'll need to sign up with our agency, and we have an $800 registration fee. But once you do the gig, you'll get the $800 back. Okay. Something is off. So I call a couple of the speakers on his website and I hear the same story. They paid him $800 and they never heard from him again. But I have a gig. I'm special. So I pay the registration fee. And I do the gig, and it goes great. I send Don my invoice, and about 30 days later, I realize I haven't heard from him. And so I send him a couple of emails, and he doesn't respond. I call him, it goes straight to voicemail. And it's sinking in. And I'm walking my dog, and it is a beautiful day, and I just have this sick feeling. I got scammed. I got scammed out of $4,800, and I teach money psychology and trust. Am I qualified to do this? And it really was a horrible feeling. I felt like a sucker. I felt like a mark. Definitely not special. And I thought, I'm going to call my friend Joe. Because the thing about my friend Joe is that he's this goofy, playful, positive guy. Always makes me feel better. And also, I remember one time that Joe told me that he is obsessed with cons and scams. He said, I've read every John Grisham book at least twice. And at some point, they stopped being fiction and they started being research. That's an unsettling thing to hear your friend say. And memorable, right? That stuck with me, so I thought, I'm gonna call Joe. And when he answered, we chatted a little bit, and then I took a deep breath, and I said, Joe, I got scammed. And he was very kind and very interested. He wanted to know everything, every detail. I texted him Don's website, and when I got home from my walk, I went to this Excel sheet where I keep track of my speaking income, and I deleted the amount Don had promised me, and I wrote negative $800. The next day, Joe calls me, and the first thing he says is, don't be mad. I called Don last night, and I told him I was an event planner for a conference, and we had a really big budget. And it was a voicemail, and Don called me back in less than 2 minutes. And he walked me through the whole process, and I just played dumb, and then I said I'd be in touch. So Colin, what do you think? And I thought about the negative $800 in my bank account, and I said, yes, let's scam my scammer. And that is how Operation Grisham launched gloriously into the world with no plan and no preparation. We had the outline of a plan, and it was basically that I would keep annoying Don by emailing him and leaving him voicemails trying to get paid, while at the same time, this committee would think and think and think and then eventually decide to hire me, at which point Don would have to pay me if he wanted the much bigger payday. Okay, Operation Grisham. I just want to say I agree with you, that name sounds completely badass. So you should know that it was really just me and Joe giggling while we wrote emails to Don. About an hour later, Don receives an email from Beth, who does not exist. And she works for the Midwest Auditors Association Annual Conference, which is fake. And she says, we have a budget of $15,000, and someone on our committee has heard of this speaker, Colin Ryan. Do you represent him? And Don writes back right away, I do represent him, he'd be a perfect fit. And then brings up the payment, and is like, are you going to pay up front, or how do you want to do it? I mean, just so greedy. And he's basically promising I'll do it. Meanwhile, Don has not contacted me at all. And we kind of think maybe he's not going to. We need something to push this forward. So I convince my poor wife, Lindsay, to call Don and leave a voicemail and pretend to be Beth. Nice to meet you, Don. We have a lot of money. We can't wait to have a meeting with Colin Ryan. Well, Don calls me. He tells me about the event. He says, can you make this meeting time? I say, yes, I can. But I gotta tell you, Don, I'm not gonna be able to confirm unless you pay me the money that you owe me. And Don just starts talking faster and kind of over me. And he's like, yeah, you're in the queue. It's just been busy, and hangs up. So Beth and Colin meet. They love Colin. They tell Don, and it starts to kind of progress, and Joe and I are like, he's going for this. Don is completely in. Has he not even Googled the Midwest Auditors Association? And so we get into this loop where he's kind of promising things of Beth. His plan is he wants Beth to pay her before he has to pay me. Scam number 2. And he's lying to me constantly. And on the one hand, it feels kind of cool that we are fully faking this guy out. And I wish I could tell you that I felt in charge and justified. But the truth is, I am embarrassed. Because I, no matter what happens here, am a person who got scammed. And I'm embarrassed about how much time Joe is devoting to help me with this. And I'm embarrassed about how hard it is not to bring up the latest development at dinner with Lindsay. And I'm angry. And I can't sleep because I can't stop thinking about Don. All while knowing that he's not thinking about me at all. Because a scammer doesn't just take your money. They take your time, your energy, your faith in the decency of people. The part of the scam I never planned for is that I had to listen to Don lie to me, email after email, and I'm just sick of it. And things are progressing, but we're almost 30 days into this plan. And Don just keeps coming up with excuses, and with no real end in sight, I go to my next speech. And at that speech, I asked the audience, has anyone here learned a hard lesson about money? And a woman raises her hand, her name is Monica, and she says, this year my husband and I got scammed by a contractor. We checked his references, we paid the deposit, and now he won't return our calls. And I looked at her, and I saw her. I felt this wave of empathy and recognition, and I said to Monica, it sounds like you did your homework, but the real problem is you were talking to somebody who was lying to you from the very first word they said. How could you have known? And Monica kind of relaxed. And I thought to myself, I am qualified to do this, maybe more now than before. And I let it go. I knew I wasn't going to get paid, but I got something. I got something I needed. I got something that made me better. I flew home, and I tried to tell Joe, I think this is over, man. Let's just let this go, and Joe will not let this go. Another week goes by, and finally, Don has run out of reasons to believably delay this process. He's got to say yes to this committee, which means he's got to pay me the money, but Don has one last move. He offers to Venmo me $800 out of a slush fund, and then he'll pay me the rest next week if I'll confirm with Beth that I'll do the gig. And I'm like, no. And that is when Don writes me a long email lecturing me about trust. So I stick to my guns, and finally Don writes back and he says, all right, I'm going to pay you next Friday. What I want you to do is confirm with Beth as soon as you get the payment. So in his mind, he's going to pay me $4,800. Same day he's going to get like 15 grand. He still comes out on top. That Friday, I refresh my bank account like I have done hundreds of times over the nearly 2.5 months this has been going on. And there is a deposit for $4,800. And I'm looking at it and it's like slowly sinking in. We won! We beat a bad guy at his own game, a professional liar. Take that! $4,800. It's an incredible feeling. I'm so ecstatic. I immediately start writing an email to Beth to let her know I can speak at the conference. Because I'm method at this point. I call Joe and we're just giggling. We can't believe it. I mean, we did it. And that's when the craziest thing happens. Beth writes Don an email and tells him we had our whole speaker budget eliminated. Sorry. And that felt pretty good. I got paid. But I got something even better. I got to stop thinking about Don. Because here's the thing, I now know that the world is full of bad people, sure. It's also full of good people, like my friend Joe, my wife Lindsay, Monica from that speech, and Beth. Okay, I promise you, I know Beth is not real. But Don does not know that. He's completely convinced she's real. And I'm not just saying that, I know that for a fact because months after all of this is over, Don starts emailing Beth, trying to find out if she went behind his back and hired me anyway for the conference, which is wildly unprofessional and also amazing because what that means is that when all of this is said and done, Don can't stop thinking about me.